of the like surgery just among the young surgeon like under 40 years old, something like that. So not that crazy, like just the real casual talk always. So like you don't have to be nervous, obviously. um, and you guys' question will be like appreciated because that's encourage that like a more like a detailed discussion. Also, that you guys can reinforce the knowledge to me, you know. But anyway, let's start.
All right, and I'm
Okay.
gonna share. I'm gonna change you to the host so you can share your
Oh,
screen.
okay. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Let's see. Let's check. Do you see the slide here?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's start. So, okay, cool. All right, let's start. So today we're gonna talk about the myocardial protection, especially in our, obviously the cardioplegia, and especially focus on the pediatric cardiac surgery. But see, obviously we need our evidence from the adult cardiac as well. Then the first, so like let's say the half part to the two-third part is like a little review the basics and background history, and lastly the one third is more important. I recently reviewed multiple articles and little picked up the evidence for practical, you purpose. So let's see. So do you know what's the purpose to review the history? That like to, you know, make myself sound smart, but but more than that, like review the history will be helpful to review their strategies, the previous surgeons struggle like to how to protect their myocardium. So obviously, as all we know, the high potassium cardiac arrest is the most common one, and they struggle with just cooling the patient, like hypothermia, or like intermittently, like put a cross cramp on the back on cross cramp on all that things that they try to protect the heart, but see actually the mortality around that time is really high, right? And then and historically the first like pharmacological arrest was really done Brett Schneider from Germany, and impressively still some of the center still using the HTK, right? So that's the first cardioplegia, and especially for the harvest, like another the routine surgery, like in North America, still the custodial is still one of the most common cardioplegia for the harvest procurement, I think. And invented the St. Thomas, which is that one we routinely use, the Freegisol, it's basically the St. Thomas solution, right? Then that's one of the most common cardioplegia, I believe. And technique-wise, the Bachberg invented the blood cardioplegia. So these are the options. And these things I skipped really quick, but see, basically the importance of the myocardial protection is that like starts to get damaged after exceeding the 20 minutes on a normal thermia. And but once we use a cardioplegia, someone said 4 or 5 hours will be okay, but actually I don't think so. Well, like exceeded the cross gram time, 3 hours is going to be obviously harmful, right? So that's things we can review on the article. And compared to the adult, so let's say the children's like tend to get more like flexibility versus ischemia, but some study said actually the neonatal like myocardium isn't even more like vulnerable to the ischemic or like a reperfusion injury. So anyway, our center has a lot of neonatal cases. We have to be meticulous about the obviously myocardial protection. Okay. Then again, versus adults, so like not like a children's hearts, more like maybe can tolerate more ischemic times, as someone said, but they still like have to be careful about all kind of that things, so like LV distension, inotrope response, or like cardiac output physiology is totally different from the adult. Like a stroke volume is much lower, so we need heart rate to come off bypass, all those things. So again, the more sense the immature myocardium is more sensitive to the extracellular calcium levels, which is very important. That's why the committee is so meticulous, giving the calcium, studied the calcium, all those things. But see, we're going to talk about the calcium later on a little bit, not deeply. Again, the hypothermia will be helpful because obviously less oxygen consumption. Here is the kind of figure, which is the kind of famous figure which from, I don't know, I forgot what kind of article was from, but it's very famous. That's even on the textbook. Like cardiac arrest reduce like let's say 90% of their oxygen demand on their myocardium. And plus, just cooling like a 10 degrees will be helpful to reduce another 20 to 25% O2 demands on our myocardium. So first priority, obviously the heart is still like arrest is very important, obviously based on this figure, right? And secondly, maybe the cooling might be helpful to reduce our oxygen consumption or like reduce the metabolic activity on the heart. Let's see. And this all we know, so I skipped the slide. And this maybe you guys know, like the material, the solution we will add to the cardiac pressure is all those things. So, and this is the option of the warm cardiac pressure. Sounds scary to me, but it's actually the study showed the almost like a no inferior result compared to the cold cardiac pressure. So the someone do, but it's kind of minority, I believe. But still, this is the option we can do it to keep the patient warm and warm induction, the kind of warm cardiac pressure, the redose, multiple dose, we can add like 20 to 25 minutes, which is a bit annoying, but but still, this is the option. Someone does still. So delivery technique, we usually do just antegrade delivery versus the coronary ostium cardiac pressure. But the different option someone does is a retrograde, which is more common in adult. But based on my experience, that South Carolina folks still doing, and they love to use a retrograde. Only like a pitfall to use a retrograde for the P's is like the size of the cannula, and also hard to measure the pressure, right? So like a little tricky to measure the pressure. Also, if that retrograde go deep, maybe that like a right coronary not perfuse well because that the kind of first branch from the coronary sinus going to the right ventricle basically. So on the adult side, kind of one of the common complication associated with the retrograde cardiac pressure is like RV failure, like RV ischemic. Like when they came off the bypass, oh, the LV functions are fine, but still like at the right ventricle down the function like moderate to depressed. Sometimes that happens. So that's why like a very shallow like a cannulation into the coronary sinus and fix it is a very important and the tips for the retrograde techniques. And I feel this still helpful for the piece. So like, for example, or, put the cross clamp off, like we can use a retrograde to de-air the coronary. Like sometimes we struggle with the air going to the coronary, ended up like the bad ischemic or like a bad function. That's why I always already put the small clamp on the coronaries before, of bypass. This is the one of the technique to prevent emboli, the air emboli going to the coronary, but the retrograde is an option to de-air it. And also that would be helpful to de-air the ascending aorta as well. And that's South Carolina surgeon do. Okay, so a lot of factor. We have the myocardial injury after the surgery, all those things we can skip. So this is the type of the cardioplegia. All we know, we use the St. Thomas. This is a Pregisol, right? And basically basically the extracellular solution, which is like high sodium and plus high potassium, and on the other hand, like HTK, we talk is like hyposodium. I mean, natremia is like a little like annoying, for the perfusionist to like correct the all like erythrocytes, right? That's why now became less common, at least in North America. Let's see there. This is a history of the cardioplegia. Again, as we talk, our Brett Schneider, HTK, Castiglione is the first, cardioplegia, followed by the St. Thomas, still like popular, right? Still popular all over the country. And finally, we need to talk about that from 1990, the Del Nido was invented, now became kind of majority in North America. So let's see, we can see the one article. That's from the article. From here, kind of interesting. I reviewed the article. So this is the investigation from the kind of already 10 years ago, but 2013. Look at that. So like the all red indicated the blood cardioplegia, and the all blue indicated the crystalloid cardioplegia. Obviously, the blood cardioplegia is more like a majority, right? And that Del Nido seems like based on this data, like maybe the 50% or so. But after 10 years, I believe more became, a lot more center start using the Del Nido, I believe. Let's see the next slide. And this is more like a international survey from 2016, still a bit old, but this is maybe the most updated one I could find it. And let's see here. So North America, NA, so 74% using the Del Nido. And next, and hold on, sorry. So total, all over the country, so 54% using the Del Nido, still majority. And compared to the Del Nido, again, the custodial now just 8% in North America, the very few. And but impressively in the EU, still there are a lot of centers in the custodial. So let's say globally is still like the commonly used cardioplegia. So that way, like we hardly say, oh, Del Nido must be the best cardioplegia. Never know. So let's see another article. Then let's see which one is the best. So just the review of the cardioplegia. Del Nido using, as we know, the like a 1:4 ratio compared to that like a crystalloid and blood cardioplegia. So basically, Del Nido more use a crystalloid. I mean, plasmolite combined solution, 4 versus 1 blood. And then on the other hand, they're using the blood cardioplegia St. Thomas is a 4 blood, in versus one solution. So more blood owner with a St. Thomas solution among the blood calibration technique. And the temperature, commonly we call, like the most common one is less than 10 degrees, 5 degrees. There's maybe no doubt. And what's that? Topical cooling we usually use. And this is a induction dosage. The most commonly del nido like a 20 cc per kilo as a first dose, and then maybe the St. Thomas most commonly use a 30 cc per kilo, I believe. And the maintenance dose followed by maybe the del nido 10 cc per kilo is a common, and maybe St. Thomas 50 cc per kilo is a common, I think. And that's the interval for the maintenance dose. So let's say del nido is supposed to be there like just only one dose, single dose cardiac pressure, right? That's why shouldn't be like the maintenance dose shouldn't happen, but actually some of the surgery require more time. Then so that way, maybe the reasonably ended up most of the surgeon redose the cardiac pressure. I mean, redose the del nido 45 to 60 minutes. This is a common thing. And next, St. Thomas are the surgeon usually redose 30 to 45 minutes. And the blood cardiac pressure, the surgeon prefer that way like a shorter time, maybe like 20 to 30 minutes, I believe. And what's that? For the custodial, maybe 45 minutes. I bet I've never used, so I'm not familiar with. So okay, from here, this is a like a systematic review that that's a good, very good study, but it's kind of old already. Circulation 2006. Based on this, blood cardiac pressure versus crystalloids. Things like blood cardiac pressure is superior in terms of the low cardiac output syndrome. And this is a myocardial infarction. Also, the blood cardiac pressure got a preferable result. But that all adult result, hard to say in the piece. And this is also the mortality, blood cardiac pressure a little bit better, right? And the all adult result. Seems like blood cardiac pressure definitely better in the adult population, no doubt. But the P's hard to say because very few randomized trial, like just small randomized trial, let's say 100 to 150 cases, and basically based on these study, no significant difference of the clinical outcome. So that way, like on the piece, maybe still the surgeon can use the crystals like us, and also the blood pressure. That's okay. That's things we can say. We cannot say the blood pressure is superior to the crystalloid in a pediatric cardiac surgery. But slightly, the sum of the data shows maybe the cardiac index, maybe the troponin level, maybe the lactate to be a little better in their blood cardiac pressure, but still no significant, again, no significant difference of the clinical outcome. So still we can use the crystaloids or blood, either will be fine. So in warm, cold, the warm is no difference mortality. So still warm is an option, but the personal preference, the cold will be preferred. And let's take a look at the del nido, because the del nido now became majority as we talk. So the basic background or theory of the del nido is high potassium and the lidocaine block the sodium channel, fast sodium channel, and a little bit blood, just a little bit blood as we talk like just 4:1 ratio, right? So a little bit blood is helpful as a buffer, not a real. Actually, the del Nido, theoretically, the needle should be classified to the crystalloid actually. So because that blood cardiac pressure's concept is, blood will be helpful to deliver the oxygen or all the things to the myocardium during the procedure. But actually, the needle use the blood as a just buffer. The histidine from the red blood cell, they're helpful to reduce the acidosis in their, like an intercellular condition in a myocardium, but actually not more than that. So the needle didn't expect this tiny red blood cell deliver the oxygen to the myocardium. So basically, technically, this should be classified to the crystalloid actually that the needle is. And let's review the bad guy for the myocardium is a calcium ion, right? And also acidosis, and plus their sodium ion during the case. So if you guys see their activity, oh, Dr. Reddy, see we can see their activity on the EKG, or like the heart is moving is really bad because of that. Like that is an indication of the, like maybe the calcium created the reperfusion injury or something like that. So the heart is the most important things we should see during the case, right? And also this lidocaine is helpful to block this sodium channel. So the feature of the derivative is the very tiny dose of the calcium to prevent the calcium paradox. That the calcium paradox is after cross clamp off, too much calcium going in. That way, like a zero calcium for the cardiac pressure is actually, the data showed even harmful compared to the tiny bit calcium. So tiny bit calcium will be helpful to prevent calcium paradox. And the magnesium is contained, and also lidocaine is helpful to prevent this sodium activation. So all those things is a feature of the del Nido. So the review the del Nido, once we exceeded the 120 minutes cross clamp time, the contractility reduced, but diastolic function seems fine. The compliance A and B, we can see. But let's take a look the figure ones, that the below figure, that once we exceeded 180 minutes cross clamp time, significantly CK, MB, and troponin increase compared to that blood cardiac pressure. So that way, the needle shouldn't exceed the 180 minutes cross clamp time. Even though 120 minutes is kind of skeptical, because look at the above figure, like contractility will be reduced, require high dose inotropes. So del Nido versus other cardiac pressure, adult and the pediatric systematic review. So only benefit of the del Nido is a shorter cross clamp time and the bypass time on the adult side, but not a ped side. That's above 2 sets. And the defibrillation rate definitely lower compared to the St. Thomas, which is good. This is the benefit of using the del Nido. But the ICU stay, no change. AKI, no change. Hospitality mortality, no change, no significant. 30-day mortality, no change. IABP on adults, no change. Atrial fibrillation, no change. So basically, minimum benefit to use the del Nido actually compared to the other solution. So maybe slightly better possibly on the adult data, but actually on the peds, no real benefit is study showed. So that's my personal experience. I've experienced 3 facilities, right? So South Carolina, Columbia, New York, and UCSF, and going to the Stanford. So like South Carolina, Columbia use the del Nido, but South Carolina, MUSC, is more like meticulous to manage the patient during the case, definitely. It's like they are like redose their needle like every 45 to 60 minutes versus if they see there any electrical activity on the heart, they redose their needle. And again, the initial dose is going to be like 20 cc versus the 30 cc per kilo as the initial dose for the sick LV. And the maintenance dose is going to be 10 versus like usually 15 cc per kilo. And plus, that they also use a warm shot, just the warm blood at the end of their case, the before cross clamp off, just 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, giving the warm blood and the cross clamp off. And also, again, they use a retrograde cardioplegia plus the muff, like so meticulously. So they're so like strategically like do all those things. Colombia more like feel free, like just cross clamp off, even that like exceeded the 120 minutes. But you know, the kind of cultural difference, even in the US, you know. And again, we still using the Prednisol, but again, the data showed no significant, you know, difference compared to the Derinito on the PEEP side still. So I would say still okay to use the Prednisol, even the corticosteroid, that's fine. That's the data showed. Okay. Then my personal preference. So don't tell doctor already. So like just like my personal preference because I feel comfortable put myself to majority. So as long as I work in the US once I become attending, you know, maybe I feel comfortable put myself to the majority. So that's why maybe I might use the Delnito and the cold. I prefer cold just to protect the other organ system, like because the warm cardioplegia showed that same quality as a cold blood cardioplegia. But we don't know about the, you know, the brain. We don't know about the kidney function, right? So that way, like a cooling will be like makes me feel comfortable, like to like protect the other organ system, right? So maybe the heart is okay to stick to the warm blood cardioplegia, the data showed, but the other bit makes me feel uncomfortable, like drag my feet to use warm cardioplegia, to be honest. So that's why the cold, obviously the cold, the needle, then maybe the straightforward case, less than 90 minutes. I don't think not necessary to redose. Some data show the redose for the needle will be harmful. So maybe just single dose would be preferred, and just cross clamp off. But if sounds like the procedure will exceeded the 90 minutes, but still less than 120 minutes, maybe just still we can just cross clamp off without without doing anything. But if maybe exceeded the 120 minutes, maybe I will try the hot shot because some data shows that the hot shot, warm shot will be helpful for the LV function. This is the some data from our team when I was in Japan. I dedicated to the cardioplegia experiment with their pigs. Then that data shows terminal warm blood cardioplegia much better LV contractility and also diastolic function. And maybe some point I will try and start using this technique like terminal warm blood cardioplegia. The ratio is in a recipe is in the right side. That I want to use a Prednisol. Mealtector is in the basically the Prednisol in Japan. This is a Centoma solution. We can use even we use the Derinito at the end of the case. That kind of cocktail using their like a Prednisol, add some these like buffer or like some of the like electrolytes, and that shows better function and the less inotropic support. Maybe that will be helpful. And so maybe some point I'm going to use, but for now, again, the conclusion. So no real data on the ped cardiac surgery show the significant. So no real result like superior to the crystalloid, superior to the blood, no result superior to the delineado or what kind of thing. So any cardioplegia surgeon still can use for therapeutic cardiac surgery. The data show, but based on the preference or survey, maybe in North America, delineado will be the majority, and in the adult side, only benefit is less cross clamp time and less bypass time, and but no real benefit for the mortality, survival, or ICU stay. I think that's it. Any question or comments? We prefer.
I
No.
jump in. First of all, thank you very much. That was a great talk.
Okay.
And I would love to hear this talk from you again a year from now, because Frank Hanley uses Flugisol and Delnido back and forth.
Yeah.
Case. I think I'll be very interested in your take. My question for you is, in your research, did you find any studies that compared single dose Delnido to redosing? And then
that's a good question. So let's see. I deleted my slide. Sorry. So maybe there's some slide. Oh, still that active. So still, you guys can see or already? You cannot see. I need to share again. So that's a very good question, and maybe people have a question about this. So that's why our team tried to answer that question. So actually, I skipped that protocol, but our study for the pig experiment is like that compared to the control, and just put the cross clamp on, and the Delnido and warm cardioplegia. Before this study, we actually checked the Delnido single dose versus plus the second dose versus control just exceeded like 90 minutes or 120 minutes. Then actually the redose of the Delnido didn't show that better contractility or outcome for the patient or the pigs less than 180 minutes cross clamp time. So once that the case become complicated, like for example, like 180 minutes cross clamp time might be helpful to redose it, but the less than 180 minutes, actually the no data showed that the multi-dose is helpful compared to the single dose. But still, this is the question. Once we exceeded 180 minutes, maybe the redosing is helpful. But definitely, our data show this terminal warm blood cardioplegia will be helpful to restore the function. So that way, this is the only evidence we get. So that's why I'm saying I will start trying maybe some point. But maybe redosing, because makes me nervous. Just single dose and exceeded 180 minutes, but no real data show that multi-dose is helpful compared to the single dose.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other question? Okay. All right. Great.
Thank you very much for speaking test.
Yeah.
We really
Yes, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always good to like learn a little bit more about, like kind of refresh memory of other ones because we're so dedicated to Pledge of Soul. So
yeah, thanks.
Always good to have a little refresh.
And I'm old enough. I've done all of those actually. I like your warm shot idea. My only suggestion would be to start it at the blood out tepid, like kind of like 18 to 25 degrees, and then ramp it up to warm. I had a surgeon that I did that with, and it was a really nice way. I felt like if you'd blast the heart, if it was sitting there cold and you would blast blood into it, it wasn't very physiologic. And so it was kind of nice.
I see.
Nice to bring it up, over a 3-minute period or something like that. But
yeah, I agree. Like, let's say that, again, like, for example, like South Carolina, that I said using their warm blood cardiac pressure. I mean, not the blood cardiac pressure, warm shot, right? So their strategy is like, maybe about to finish the main part, start saying like, rewarming, and maybe rewarm to like 25 or 28 degrees, and you guys need to warm up the blood as well, right? So for the warm shot anyway. So that way, like, start rewarming, almost rewarm, like close to the 32 degrees, and like then maybe the before the cross cramp off, we can use a warm blood cardiac pressure, and then cross cramp off, maybe. I don't know. Like what? So I know that Dr. already prefer like until cross cramp off, not rewarming, right? But that's one of the things we need to consider. But I don't know. All right.
Well,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
And so Clint, some points please share that like a recording video. Then
I'll put it on a USB drive and get it to you. I'm sure it's too large to.
yeah, definitely. Like